She lied about working late, but her boss told me everything. Our town isn't the kind of place that makes it onto maps unless you're squinting real hard or zoomed in by accident. It's a tucked-in dot between two highways most people use to get somewhere else. One grocery store, two gas stations, a diner that's changed names 4 times but kept the same cracked vinyl booths, and a courthouse with bricks old enough to remember who laid them. We've got a town square where kids still ride bikes after school, a 4th of July parade that clogs Main Street for hours, and a community Facebook page that spreads news faster than the 6 o'clock report. We don't have a shopping mall, but we've got a feed store, a hardware co-op, and a bakery where everyone claims to know the owner, since she was in diapers. I was born here, raised here, and never left. Not because I was stuck, but because I never wanted to be anywhere else. I like knowing the name of the guy who changes my oil and the woman who bags my groceries. I like being able to run into my middle school gym teacher at the farmer's market and still call him coach. It's the kind of place where people wave when they drive by, even if they don't like you. Where lawn care is competitive, gossip is currency, and reputations stick longer than chewing gum on a church pew. You don't just live here, you perform here, whether you mean to or not. People remember your kindness. They also remember that one time you cried outside the post office in '09. That's just how it is. I met Erin 12 years ago, when we were both 23. She just moved back into town after living in Charlotte for a few years, and I was already working full-time running a small home renovation business I built from the ground up. I remember the first time I saw her like it just happened this morning. She was in the parking lot of Harris Feed and Supply, trying to shove a giant bag of garden soil into her trunk without completely throwing out her back. I watched her for a second, not sure if I should help or let her win the battle on her own, and just as she muttered something that made a guy walking past raise his eyebrows, I stepped in and offered a hand. She looked up at me, squinting through the sun, and said, "Only if you promise not to laugh when I drop this thing on my foot." We talked for almost an hour next to that car. About where she'd been, what she missed, how weird it was being back. She had this mix of sarcasm and sincerity that made her feel electric to be around. She'd been trying to make it in marketing and media, jumping between internships and freelance gigs, but something about the pace of the city wore her down. "It's like the concrete eats your soul," she told me. I needed trees again. Real air. I didn't think twice. I asked her out to dinner the next night. And that was it. One dinner turned into 3. 1 week turned into 6 months. By the time we were 25, we'd signed the mortgage papers on our first house. At 26, we got married in my aunt's backyard under a string of Edison bulbs and a handmade arch I built out of salvage barnwood. She wore a long lace dress with a wildflower crown, and I don't think I blinked once the whole ceremony. Everyone we knew was there. That's how it works in towns like ours. People show up, whether they're invited or not. Half the crowd just wanted to see if Erin still had that big city air about her, and the other half cried during our vows. My mom didn't stop smiling for a week. Now we're both 35. 10 years married, 12 together. No kids, just a very spoiled rescue dog named Tiller, a half-acre yard full of lavender and tomatoes, and enough shared memories to make 1,000 family photo albums, even if we never took enough pictures. We build a quiet life here. One where the days feel slow but satisfying. Erin was the color to my structure. She rearranged the furniture every 3 months and labeled spice jars like it was a spiritual ritual. I handled the heavy lifting, the bills, the repairs, the projects around the house, and she made sure the soul of the place stayed intact. Our house wasn't fancy, but it felt like us. A little messy, a little mismatched, but warm. We had a routine. I'd wake up first, feed the dog, and put the kettle on. She'd shuffle in 10 minutes later, hair wild, eyes half open, wrap her arms around my waist and mutter, "You're too damn cheerful for 6:30. On good days, we'd eat breakfast on the porch. On rush days, we'd share a granola bar in the driveway before splitting off to work. Either way, we always kissed goodbye. We liked our bubble. We liked it a lot. I know some people crave adventure, excitement, stories worth telling at cocktail parties. But we found magic in the small things. A surprise cup of coffee. A hand on the knee during a long drive. A stupid inside joke we'd built over years that still made us laugh like teenagers. She'd play Billie Holiday while folding laundry, and I'd sing along off-key just to annoy her. She called me her mountain. Said I was the only calm she ever trusted. People around town knew us. Not just by name, but by our story. They're one of the good ones. I'd hear at the diner. Still look at each other like it's prom night. It felt good, being admired. Not in a showy way, just in the sense that people saw us and thought, that's what love should look like. And maybe it was. Or maybe we were just really good at playing our part. Around here, once people put you in a category, it sticks. Good husband. Sweet wife. Solid couple. The kind who show up to bake sales and tip extra at the car wash fundraiser. But that's the thing about towns like this. The moment something looks off, even a flicker, people lean in closer. You think they're not paying attention, but they are. They notice when someone stops wearing their wedding ring. They catch who shows up late to church and who sits a little too close to someone who isn't their spouse at the county fair. They might not say anything right away, but the moment you slip, the whisper will start turning. And once it does, you can't unspin it. Truth, half-truth, straight-up lie. Around here, they all spread the same. Not that I had any reason to worry. Not then. Back then, Erin still looked at me with that half-smile that meant, you're my safe place. She still reached for my hand when we crossed the street, still laughed when I tried to dance in the kitchen, still left handwritten notes in my lunch bag that said things like, don't forget to smile today, or bring home chocolate, or else. So yeah, I was lucky. I was happy. I believed we were one of the good ones. And I had no reason to believe otherwise. The job came up during one of those restless spells she had every so often, when Erin would get quiet for days, then suddenly start rearranging furniture or repainting the hallway at 2 a.m. Like clockwork, it was always followed by something big, a new idea, a new side project, a new push to shake up life. That time, it was her career. She'd been freelancing from home for a while, picking up local design gigs, building social media strategies for local shops and cafes, doing logo redesigns for small-town startups, trying to look big online. She was good at it, and people liked her work. But she'd been saying for months that she felt stagnant. I just need to be around people again, she told me one night, sitting cross-legged on the couch, laptop balanced on her knees. Deadlines feel different when someone's actually waiting on you in the next room, not 3 email chains away. So when she got a message from a local marketing firm, Dalton and Bright, about a job opening, she lit up fast. The company wasn't huge, but for our town, it was one of the more serious outfits. Real clients, decent budgets, an actual office with glass doors and productivity posters. And it happened to be owned by Mark Dalton, a name I hadn't heard in a long while. Mark and I went to high school together, though together is a loose term. He was 2 grades ahead of me, took all the AP classes, always looked like he was auditioning for a catalog shoot in his pressed polos and loafers. He wasn't a jerk, just distant, polished. The type who used words like synergy before any of us knew what it meant. We had econ together once, and I remember him answering every question like he was already a manager at some imaginary company. He was smart, but even back then, there was something a little too curated about him. His dad owned a logistics firm, small, back then, but it grew fast. When his father retired, Mark rebranded it with a partner and started pushing into regional markets. I'd seen his name pop up in local news stories, charity event sponsorships, ribbon cuttings. Always smiling, always in control. So when Erin mentioned that he personally called her in for an interview, I raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. I could see how excited she was, and I wasn't about to be the guy who poked holes in her balloon. You'll crush it, I told her. And I meant it. She spent the next few days putting together a presentation she didn't even need for the interview. She updated her resume, rehearsed her answers, even practiced smiling in the mirror, not too wide, she said. I don't want to look desperate. She wore a dark green blouse and slim black pants, paired with flats that made her look confident but approachable. When she walked out the door that morning, she looked like she belonged in a magazine about women who balance it all and still find time to drink water and journal. I watched her drive off and caught myself smiling like a kid. I was proud of her. Truly. She got the job the next day. A full-time position as a creative strategist, whatever that meant. I didn't know the lingo, but I knew she was happy. She got her own office, small, but with a window, and a work-issued laptop. They even gave her a personalized mug on day 1. It's a real company, she kept saying. Like, real. I didn't realize how much she'd needed to feel that until I saw the way she glowed when she talked about it. That first week, she came home every night with stories. About the team, the clients, the vibe. Mark really gets it, she said once. Like, he sees the full picture. It's kind of inspiring. I nodded, hiding whatever twinge I felt hearing her talk about another man like that. It wasn't jealousy. Not really. More like distance. like a door opening that I wasn't invited to walk through. Still, I was happy for her. I wanted her to have this. So when the late nights started, I didn't question them. At first, it was just one evening here and there. "We've got a pitch due tomorrow," she'd say, tossing her heels in the hallway as she dropped her bag on the bench. "Mark wants us sharp." Then it became every Tuesday. Then Tuesdays and Thursdays. Then full weeks where she wouldn't get home until almost 9. Always with a reason. Always professional. And I believed her. Why wouldn't I? The change in her didn't happen all at once. It was gradual. Subtle. She started dressing sharper. Her makeup got a little more precise. She began wearing perfume again. Not the flowery stuff she used to spritz on before Sunday brunch, but something stronger, cleaner, with a name I couldn't pronounce. She got a new bag. Switched her phone case. Bought blue light glasses even though her eyes were perfect. She looked good. Really good. Like the best version of herself. And I told her so. But somewhere inside, something started tugging at me. Not suspicion, just uncertainty. She started texting less during the day. Calls went unanswered more often. When I asked how her day went, she'd say busy and change the subject. We still had dinners together when we could, still watched our shows, still made each other laugh. But there was a frequency I couldn't quite tune into anymore. Like she was humming a song I couldn't hear. I told myself not to be dramatic. That this was what ambition looked like. That this was what I wanted for her. I'd always said I wanted her to grow, to thrive, to find her lane. And she had. So what if she was tired at night? So what if she didn't reach for my hand under the table like she used to? This was life. Life evolves. People evolve. And love means letting them. Still, there were moments. Like the night I came home early from a job site and found her in the living room with her laptop open and headphones in. She didn't hear me walk in, didn't look up for a solid 5 minutes. When she did, she clicked her screen off so fast it made me blink. "Work stuff," she said. "Just a client call I was reviewing." I didn't press, but something about the way she said it, too fast, too firm, made my stomach twist. There were other signs. Little things. Her sudden obsession with locking her phone. Her refusal to leave her laptop unattended. A hotel keycard I found once, tucked in her coat pocket, even though she told me the conference she attended was a single-day event. But I didn't ask. I didn't want to be that guy. The guy who didn't trust his wife. I just told myself it was stress. That she needed space. That the woman I married was still in there, still mine. Because love doesn't unravel all at once. Sometimes, it unthreads so slowly you don't even see the pile of string until it's already at your feet. It happened on a Wednesday in early April, one of those days that can't decide if it's spring or still clinging to winter. I just finished a long job out near the lake. Hands stiff, shirt dusty, that kind of honest exhaustion that makes dinner and a quiet couch sound like paradise. Erin had texted me earlier to say she'd be working late. That had become the norm lately. No reason to question it. So I threw a frozen pizza in the oven, turned on a game I wasn't even watching, and started folding a pile of clean laundry. That's when my phone rang. The name on the screen caught me by surprise. Mark Dalton. I hadn't spoken to him directly since the Christmas party. We were never close. Just two people who nodded at each other in passing. But there he was, calling me in the middle of the evening. His voice was polite, but quick. Said he was locking up and found Erin's bag in the conference room. Her tote. The one she never went anywhere without. Inside was her laptop, a charger, a couple personal things. He sounded a little confused, like maybe she'd left in a hurry. Said she walked out around 4, and that he figured maybe she just forgot it. Thought I might want to know. That one sentence caught me off guard. She left at 4. I glanced at the clock. It was past 6. She'd texted me just an hour earlier saying she was still working late. Said not to wait for dinner. That meant she was either still in the office or heading back into it. But if she left at 4 and hadn't returned, something didn't add up. I thanked him and hung up. He said he'd leave the bag at the front desk for her in the morning. I stood there holding my phone, heart beating a little too hard in my chest, replaying the call. It didn't feel dramatic at first, just strange, like a piece of the story was missing. I told myself there had to be a reason, that she left and got caught up somewhere else, that she'd explain it later, and it would all make sense. But the silence that followed made the air feel heavy. I sent her a quick text letting her know about the bag. No response. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. I called once, just to be sure. It rang a few times, then went to voicemail. That was unlike her. She always answered, or called back quickly. At least she used to. Over an hour later, I heard her keys in the door. She came in like nothing was wrong. Same light jacket, same easy tone in her voice as she said she was sorry for being so late. Claimed they were swamped with last-minute revisions, that the day got away from her. She even laughed as she pulled off her shoes and started digging in the fridge, asking if I'd eaten yet. It was so casual, so practiced, that I almost let it go. But something in my chest said not to. I asked if she'd grabbed her bag. Her reaction wasn't big, not theatrical, but just a fraction off. Her response came quickly, maybe too quickly. Said she must have left it by accident. That she changed desks during a team meeting and probably just forgot to grab it. I mentioned that Mark had said she left at 4. Again, her answer came fast. Said she had to step out for an errand and came back, but maybe he didn't see her. She kept it light, as if it wasn't a big deal, and started talking about how busy the week had been. About how she needed to take a break soon. About how I looked tired and should relax. But I wasn't tired. Not anymore. I was wide awake now, watching her, listening to how easily the explanations rolled out. None of it was technically unbelievable. There were no smoking guns. Just one inconsistency layered on another. One detail that didn't quite line up, smoothed over with a smile and a gentle tone. I didn't say anything else. I sat down, nodded, and went through the motions. But in my mind, I was replaying the timeline, rehearsing the call, measuring her expression. I'd never caught her in a lie before. Not like this. And if I was being honest with myself, I still didn't know if I had. But something shifted that night. It was small, invisible to anyone else. But I felt it, like a cold wind slipping through a cracked window you didn't know was open. You don't feel the full gust right away, just the first breeze, the first chill that makes your skin tighten. And once you feel it, you can't unfeel it. Something wasn't right. I didn't have proof yet, but I had a feeling. And sometimes, that's all it takes to start looking at everything differently. After that night, I couldn't look at her the same way. I still wanted to. God knows I tried. But every word she said started echoing differently. Every glance, every late-night text she didn't explain, every moment she seemed distracted or oddly cheerful after long days. It all felt like puzzle pieces I hadn't known I was holding until they started snapping into place. I didn't confront her. I didn't even hint that something felt wrong. I just started paying closer attention. Quietly. Intentionally. The first thing I did was check the location sharing settings on our shared devices. Not because I was looking to trap her, but because I needed to know whether the things she told me matched the places she actually was. At first, it was inconclusive. Her phone pinged around the same parts of town she always mentioned. The office. A few coffee shops. A client's place. Nothing obvious. But then, a Tuesday night rolled around when she said she'd be home by 7, and she didn't walk through the door until after 9:30. Said they had a surprise meeting. But the location history showed her phone had been parked for over 2 hours behind an apartment complex 10 minutes outside town. Not the office. Not a cafe. Not anywhere she ever mentioned. I stared at the map for 10 minutes, refreshing the timestamp, wondering how long she'd been comfortable lying so easily. Still, I didn't say anything. I waited. A week later, she came home with a small black box tucked inside her coat pocket. I spotted it as she hung up her jacket, didn't say a word until she left the room, and then checked it. A receipt inside from a jewelry shop in the next town over. It wasn't for me. I hadn't given her a reason to buy me anything. And when I checked her nightstand the next day, I found the box again, empty. Whatever had been inside was gone. Probably gifted to someone else. That was when I knew I couldn't keep pretending. I needed answers. I needed to be sure. So I did the thing I swore I'd never do. I looked through her phone while she was asleep. Her messages were clean. Too clean. Like someone had swept the floor before company arrived. But she'd overlooked her cloud sync. And inside that account, in a folder buried under random saved files, were a dozen photos she probably thought she'd hidden. Some were selfies. Others were of a young man I didn't recognize at first. Smiling. Shirtless. Sitting across from her at a bar I'd never been to. There was one shot taken in a mirror, his hand on her waist, her eyes half-lidded, face pressed to his jaw. They looked like a couple. Comfortable. Familiar. I didn't react at first. I just stared. My heart didn't even race. It just went quiet. I took a screenshot of the photo, emailed it to myself, then spent the next hour trying to figure out who he was. It didn't take long. The internet might be big, but our town is small. A few social media profiles later, I saw a name that made my stomach turn. Kyle Dalton, Mark's son. I hadn't seen him in years. Last I remembered, he was the kind of kid who got into fights behind the gym, crashed his dad's cars, and somehow still got off with a warning and a cleaned-up record. He was younger than Aaron by at least 10 years. No job history I could find. No signs he'd ever worked for his dad's company. But his last photo was posted 3 weeks ago. Same shirt, same haircut, same smug smile as in the ones on her phone. That's when it all clicked. The extra hours. The apartment complex. The jewelry. Erin wasn't just seeing someone. She was seeing him. Mark Dalton's son. The kid with no direction, no reputation worth defending. And worse than that, she was lying about it straight to my face while still kissing me goodnight and asking me to fix the screen door. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't pace, didn't cry. I just lay there beside her, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the little ways she'd changed. All the clues I'd missed because I'd been too busy trusting her. She stirred once in her sleep, curled into me, muttered something about how cold it was. I didn't move. I just lay there like stone. The next morning, I waited for her to leave for work. Then I got in my truck and drove straight to the office. I didn't ask to speak to Mark through a secretary. I walked in the front door, straight through the lobby, and knocked on his office like I had a right to be there. He looked up, surprised, maybe even nervous. I closed the door behind me and told him point blank, "Your son is sleeping with my wife." He didn't say anything for a long moment, just stared. Then he looked down at his desk like he'd just remembered a piece of information he'd been trying to forget. I didn't yell. I didn't blame him. I just handed him my phone, showed him the photo, and said, "Now you know too." Then I walked out, calm, controlled, but with my heart on fire. Not because I'd finally found the truth, but because I had no idea what I was supposed to do with it next. Mark didn't speak right away after I showed him the photos. He just looked down at them, jaw tight, fingers resting on the table like they were holding back something heavier than just words. The waitress came by to refill the coffee. He didn't touch his cup. When he finally spoke, it wasn't anger that came out. It was exhaustion. He told me he'd suspected Kyle was hiding something again, said the signs had been there. The quiet disappearances, the sudden mood swings, the smirking confidence that usually came when he'd pulled something off but hadn't yet been caught. He told me he was tired of cleaning up messes for a grown man who still acted like nothing had consequences. This wasn't the first time Kyle had gotten involved with someone he shouldn't have. There had been other women, other close calls. But this time, it wasn't just embarrassing. It was personal. It was nuclear. And for the first time, Mark wasn't sure if he was angry at Kyle or ashamed that he'd let it go this far. He said he'd already talked to his wife. That was the part that surprised me most. He said he'd shown her the photo too, told her the whole thing. He said her face went blank when she saw it, then slowly twisted into something he hadn't seen in years, disgust. Not just at the affair, but at the woman involved. A married woman. A woman 10 years older. A woman with a reputation in town. Someone she once spoke to at the company holiday party. His wife said she didn't want to be anywhere near the fallout when this hit the rumor mill. She told Mark, flat out, that Kyle needed to be cut off. That if he didn't learn now, he never would. Mark told me she was right. That he'd been protecting Kyle for too long, giving him too many lifelines, and watching each one turn into a rope he used to strangle every opportunity he'd ever had. He was done. He wanted it to stop. Then he told me how it started. About 2 months ago, Kyle had come into the office without warning. It wasn't unusual. He drifted in and out whenever he needed something. Cash, advice, someone to talk to when his latest scheme fell apart. That day, he was in a bad place. His lease was up. He'd gotten into it with a guy at a bar over some woman whose name he couldn't remember. He was moody, all over the place. Mark said he brought him into the break room, tried to talk him down. Aaron had been working on a project near that side of the office, and somehow, Kyle struck up a conversation. Mark hadn't thought anything of it at the time. Said he remembered hearing them laugh about something, probably a stupid meme or a podcast reference. Aaron had always been good with people, even the messy ones. Especially the messy ones. Mark left the room, thinking nothing of it. Just two people talking. But in hindsight, that was the moment it began. They exchanged numbers. She offered advice, maybe support. He played the sad, misunderstood kid role he'd been using since he was 16. She probably thought she was helping. Then they met again, outside of work. Kyle had a way of creating these little private worlds with people. He could be charming when he wanted to be. Vulnerable in a way that made you feel special for seeing something no one else did. Mark had seen it too many times. And Erin, for all her intelligence, probably fell into it like so many others before her. Mark didn't defend her. Didn't insult her either. He just laid it all out. Cold. Clear. Then he looked at me and said, "So what now?" I didn't answer right away. I didn't want a dramatic reaction. I didn't want to destroy anything in a way that made me look bitter or unhinged. I wanted something quiet. Something effective. Something that wouldn't backfire or make me regret the way I carried myself. And more than anything, I wanted her to feel it. Not just be caught, but truly feel it. The slow isolation. The embarrassment. The uncertainty of who knew what and how long they'd known it. I told Mark I wasn't interested in explosions. I wanted erosion. The slow kind that wears down a foundation until everything crumbles under its own weight. He nodded, slowly. Said he could help with that. That there were things he could do, nothing unethical, but just enough to let the consequences fall exactly where they were meant to. He didn't want his son anywhere near his business, near his family's name, near anything that required trust or responsibility. And he definitely didn't want Kyle thinking he'd won something by stealing another man's wife. I told him I wasn't going to say anything to Erin yet. That I needed time. Space to think. I'd keep playing it cool. Keep listening. Let her keep lying. And when the time came, we'd move. Not all at once, but step by step. Quietly. Smart. Mark said that was the only way to do it. In a town like ours, where whispers spread faster than fire, the best revenge wasn't in shouting. It was in letting everyone else connect the dots. Letting the silence do the damage. We shook hands when we left. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had an ally in the very place I least expected it. The father of the man who helped blow up my marriage. But he wasn't defending him. He was just as tired of the lies as I was. And now, we were both ready to put an end to them. Carefully. Strategically. With precision. Because sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it walks quietly, right past the front porch, and waits until the whole house is empty, before it knocks. We didn't need to say much to get the town talking. That's the beauty and the curse of a place like this. Rumors don't spread, they bloom. All we did was plant a few careful seeds. Mark spoke to a couple of mutual acquaintances, the kind who sit on community boards and always have something to whisper about. I casually mentioned to a friend at the gas station that Erin had been spending a lot of time mentoring someone out of town. That word, mentoring, it stuck to people's ribs like syrup. Not scandalous on its own, but thick with implication. From there, it moved fast. Someone said they saw her car parked at a motel on a weeknight. Someone else said they thought she was with a younger guy who looked familiar, maybe someone related to Mark. Another claimed she was overheard on a call, laughing like she was in high school again. None of it was confirmed. None of it had to be. In this town, the possibility was all people needed. And Erin, who had once been the golden girl, the sweet, smart, charming professional, started walking into rooms where conversation slowed as soon as the door opened. At work, things got colder too. Mark didn't make any loud moves. He didn't call her out. He just pulled the support beams out from under her one at a time. First, her projects were reassigned. Then, key clients stopped replying to her emails. Meetings happened without her, her access to reports quietly revoked. She was still showing up every day, still walking in with her tote and that forced smile, but the current had shifted. She was treading water in an office that no longer wanted her. A couple of junior staffers began to pull away, no longer laughing with her in the break room or asking for her input. Whispers followed her out of elevators. Must be nice having connections, someone muttered just loud enough once. She acts more experienced, but I guess that's appealing to some, someone else said in the parking lot. The worst part was she couldn't fight back. There were no accusations to answer, just silence. Just a slow, subtle rejection by a system that used to celebrate her. She started coming home more agitated. Shorter sentences. Quick to snap. She claimed the whole company was going through a weird phase. Said people were acting paranoid. She blamed corporate culture, said she needed to rebrand herself, maybe go freelance again. I just nodded and listened. Asked if she wanted me to proofread her resume. Offered to help without ever saying what I knew. Without ever telling her the damage had already been done. One Friday morning, she was called into Mark's office. She thought it was to pitch a new campaign. Instead, it was her last meeting. He told her, simply, that her position had been phased out. No dramatic firing. Just corporate language that made it feel like it wasn't anyone's fault. He thanked her for her time. Handed her an envelope with a short severance offer. And that was it. Her badge stopped working the next day. I came home that night and found her sitting on the couch in silence, phone face down, eyes blank. She said she didn't want to talk. Just sat there, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the wall like she was watching something end in her mind that she couldn't name out loud. A week later, word got around that she'd been let go, that her contract had quietly ended, and that the company was restructuring. People filled in the blanks. They always do. Some claimed she used personal ties to get ahead. Others said she was caught sneaking a client's son into the office after hours. A few claimed she was pregnant and trying to hide it, which wasn't even close to true. But around here, truth doesn't matter once the storm starts. She tried applying to other companies nearby. They all passed. Word travels fast, especially when Mark didn't vouch for her, and no one else wanted to be associated with the mess. It didn't take long before her professional reputation was dust. All that ambition, all that careful self-branding gone. Erased with the same ease she once used to wave off suspicion. I never said a word about it. Never told her I knew. Never confessed what I'd seen, what I'd planned, or who helped me. I just kept moving forward. Mark and I, oddly enough, stayed in touch. He referred a few clients my way. Said he respected how I'd handled everything. That kind of word from a man like him carries weight. My business grew. My circle expanded. And while she stayed home, scouring job boards and avoiding eye contact at the grocery store, I was building something new from the ashes of what she tried to destroy. Then one morning, as she sat on the porch scrolling her phone like a ghost, I told her I was leaving. No anger. No accusations. I just said I was done. That I'd stayed long enough to watch her crumble under the weight of her own decisions, and I didn't need to see the rest. I had nothing left to say. She didn't argue. She just stared straight ahead like she knew it was coming. Like the silence between us had finally closed the door. I packed my things that afternoon. The truck was full before sunset. I didn't slam doors or leave notes. I left with peace and a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Erin and I are done. I walked out on my terms. And she's left with exactly what she gave me in the end: silence, betrayal, and no one to blame but herself. Because the truth is, I didn't destroy her. She did that all on her own. Was a guy 10 years younger than her really worth her career, her reputation, and her family?